Well, welcome back to the In Good Company podcast, where we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. And one of my longtime friends, someone that worked together with me, and then we've golfed together and traveled together. Can't think of a better guy to have on an episode today, where we're talking about entrepreneurship, being in a job that maybe you feel like, man, is this for me? Is it time for me to jump out and start my own thing? This is the perfect guy to be talking about that. Without further ado, Ryan Pyles.
Hello.
Welcome.
Mike, thanks for having me.
Bro, you look good. You got a great shirt on today, nice little HQR. For those that don't know you, don't know your story, who are you? Where are you from? What is HQR? Just give us a little bit of a rundown.
Okay. Ryan Pyles, born and bred, Rochester, New York.
Let's go.
I operate High Quality Restoration, HQR for short. We're disaster response company. You know, if your house or commercial building has a flood, fire, mold, insurance claim type stuff, you know, I'm your guy. That's, you know.
Not just disaster recovery, but Rochester's choice for the past 2 years.
That's right.
So, I mean, I know you're a pretty humble guy, but I just got to throw that in.
2 years in a row, we won that award, and, you know, have you to thank for that. And,
oh, wow. I wasn't even looking for that, but cool.
Yeah, no, you helped
Great.
us get there with that, and, you know, greatly appreciate it.
I love it. So talk a little bit about, I mean, did you always envision that you'd be doing this kind of work?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. You know, washed up soccer player, went to college for a little bit, came home, you know, kind of bounced around and sort of fell into restoration work in my early 20s. And, you know, fast forward, I'll be 39 this year, and HQR is about to turn 5 years old in June. And
wow,
we're just off and running.
Yeah. So talk about your early career. You worked for someone else. You were kind of in this space, getting your chops.
Yeah, sort of, you know, so fell into the work itself, really enjoyed it, I guess, and, you know, got a couple certifications, went to a couple classes, just kind of worked my way up, and then, you know, left that first company, went to the next company, progressed further, the next company, and, you know, made my rounds and held every title you can have, minus owner, and then, you know, in June of 2020, made the jump to HQR, and here we are.
Yeah, right during COVID. Seems like a perfect time to go
right.
Go start your own business. The world is shut down. I'm gonna launch HQR.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the beauty of our business though is it's like pandemic or not, world shutdown or not.
Sure.
Like there's still fires, there's still water damages, people have mold, and you know, it's a thing.
Yeah, for someone listening that maybe is in a job right now where they feel like, man, I could do my own thing. Like I could jump out. What advice might you have for someone that's just kind of, because again, you gloss over that part of your story, but there is a faith step there of like, you can kind of have the golden handcuffs or be a little bit comfy, you know, in an established business. How did you have the courage to go like, all right, like how did you look at Kelly and go like, hey, this is a good idea. Trust me. Like talk about that.
So the first piece of advice I would say is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Cause like I wouldn't have been able to do it alone. Like I had help, I had people in my corner, you know, we set certain things up and in place, and, you know, you could certainly go at it alone. I think it's a much tougher, more difficult road, but like, you know, look at certain avenues of like, what are you not good at that you feel like you may need help with? Me personally, you know, I know the business front to back. Like I know how to execute the work. What I was super stressed about is, you know, the background stuff, the taxes and the IRS and New York State. And so I have a business consultant that's like assisted me with that. They've been with me since day one. You know, they help with the bookkeeping and, you know, that stuff. Shout out to Mary, you know. Mary, the gatekeeper, key holder. But yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help on certain things. You can't do it all alone. And I think any business owner will tell you, like right off the bat, is like, you're going to wear every hat. You're going to try to wear every hat, but you just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's this weird thing, I think, when you're in like high school, college, where people, it's almost like focus on your weaknesses and try to improve those things, right? I think there's a lot of energy around, what are you bad at? All right, let's work really hard to get better at those things.
Yep.
I think there's some truth to that, but I also think that the way you're wired, the way I'm wired, not everyone's wired that way. So to double down on your strengths and go, hey, I can actually hire out people whose strengths are the very things that I suck at. And I think that's a very important point that you're bringing up around building business is you're actually creating an avenue and an opportunity for other people to do what they're called to do, right? By joining in on the mission and the vision of HQR.
Right. I brought Kelly in a few years in. I wish I would have brought her on sooner. Shout out to my baby mama, stay-at-home mom, the general, the lieutenant colonel of the Pyles household.
The best part of HQR. Yeah.
She also, collects the money for HQR.
Yeah.
And, for a couple years, I was sort of wearing the collections hat and trying to manage the business and growing it and the work. It's a full-time job chasing the money that's owed to you too. So,
well, let's talk about that, because in this industry, there's a lot of insurance money, and for anyone that's been to the DMV, sent something to the post office, done their taxes, just done anything that requires the government, they know how long that process can take. So a business that does have a decent amount of insurance claims and money coming in from those companies, what is that process like? I mean, are there months where you guys are like, dang, we better get this right?
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of times we'll get like, oh, you do insurance work, like, oh, you're swimming in money, or like, hey, the insurance money. It comes, but I mean, it takes time. The insurance company's not stroking a check the day we finish the job. So, there's some downtime, and a lot of downtime sometimes. And the bigger the jobs, they take even exponentially longer to get paid. Yeah. So, it really does become a full-time job of strictly like, all right, who owes you money?
Yeah.
To follow up with those people. And, me running around doing a million things, I just couldn't do it. So, I mean, I wish I would have put Kelly on this journey sooner. Again, shout out to the baby mama.
Let's go. Yeah, man, it's critical. I mean, I think you can run a business and not be collecting money, and then your business stops.
Right.
And I know that sounds elementary to people listening, but it's like, that is a journey, right? Some people pay on time. Some people you got to chase. Some people are fighting the insurance thing or whatever it ends up being. We do a portion of our podcast called Fails of the Week. I think for a lot of people that are trying to be entrepreneurs, or maybe they own a business of their own, it's very easy on social media to see, oh yeah, HQR, you get to travel, you get to what a cool job. You got a great office, you got a great team. Do you have a funny story maybe that's worth sharing, maybe early on in your career, of just this fail that you were like, oof? Maybe it wasn't funny at the time, but
yeah. So I mean, a big part of our business too, outside of working here, locally, is we travel, nationwide to storms and hurricanes,
storm chasing, baby,
and hurricanes and things like that. And September of 2020, 3 or 4 months into having HQR, 2 hurricanes hit Louisiana, and we were certainly contemplating like, hey, are we going to do this? Because obviously I've always done storm chasing. It's been a part of my career all this time, where I'm like, all right, do we go to this hurricane? Do we not? We're brand new, like still trying to get our bearings here locally in Rochester. But fast forward, we decide to pack up. We're not getting a ton of work at Rochester at that point. People don't know who we are yet. And I'm like, I can go to Louisiana. Like, this is what I do. I'll get to work. So we packed up the entire company, shoot down to Louisiana. We're just pounding the pavement, hustling, trying to get jobs. And, we come across a guy down in Louisiana who owns a company like mine. He's local, so obviously he's getting thousands of calls.
Yep.
And, we meet with him. Seems like a great guy. Seems like he's got a decent company. He's promising us, I'm going to give you all this work, and, we're going to handle it. And, at the time, it seemed great. Like, oh my God, we're getting all this work from this guy. It's working out. The problem in sight that came is, he was handling all the billing and the collecting of the money. So now I'm relying on him to pay me. And, fast forward, we got paid for the majority of the work we did, but, towards the end there, fast forward a couple months, now we're back in New York, and I'm trying to collect money from a guy in Louisiana. And, the end of the story is we got stiffed on some of it. And, at the time, I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, is our business going to survive all of this? What's going to happen? And, now we can look back on it and like, whatever, we made it. And, a lesson learned, a monster lesson learned in that. And, come to find out that we were so blindsided in the beginning of just like, we're just starving to get work. And this guy's, promising us the world. And, come to find out he had a pretty checkered past with a lot of other people that ended up reaching out to me to be like, I can't believe, one, I can't believe you got paid what you did get paid. Yeah. And two, be careful, because that's that guy's MO.
Yeah. So I don't want to like mess with competitors and make it seem like we're jabbing anybody, but I know within this industry, like my dad, he's down in Florida, their house had like a flood inside, a pipe burst thing happened, whatever. And he had a company, I will not mention them by name, come, and they gave this astronomical quote that was just very beefed up and insurance, whatever. He's just in a struggle right now to figure out, well, how much do I actually have to pay versus whatever.
Right.
How have you guys been able to maintain a level of integrity in a space that I think maybe has a stigma of what you said earlier? Oh, it's insurance money. It's ballooning these quotes. It's this and that. How have you guys been able to earn the trust as Rochester's Choice? How have you been able to go in and actually, during a really traumatic, devastating time for a lot of businesses or homeowners of a fire or a flood or mold, how have you guys actually been able to be this trusted voice for people where when you actually walk in, they feel like they're in good hands?
I mean, so what really makes our industry unique in itself is like, okay, you're remodeling your house. You call a drywall guy, he gives you a quote, you pick it, you pay him.
Yep.
What really separates my industry is, people think, again, oh, it's insurance money. It's not an open checkbook, at all. Insurance is, they're $1 billion industry for a reason. They're not trying to just hand out any amount of money they feel like. So, there's a program that we use. There's sort of a industry standard pricing is the term the insurance likes to throw around. So, I mean, whether you hire Ryan at HQR or the next guy, generally there should be some sort of realm of normalcy and figures that are the same. And, I guess what separates HQR is we're willing to, it's sad to say it, but like we're playing a game, with insurance companies. Because again, our business is so unique where Mike Thomas is my client, but one of these big box insurance companies who's actually paying my bill.
Right.
So it's like, I need to keep you happy. I need to do a good job for you. But at the same time, I'm trying to collect money from somebody else.
Right.
And, it just becomes a game. You got to play the game.
Yeah.
There's some guys, create a reputation for themselves. There's like, they don't want to deal with the insurance company. They only want to deal with you, which is fine. And that is ultimately a better deal if I can just get paid from you instead of chasing the money. But it's like I have two clients essentially. I have Mike Thomas and his home, but I also have his insurance company who's paying me. So it's like you got to keep everybody happy.
You're also taking the burden off the homeowner when you get involved with the insurance. And again, back to what I said of it being a really traumatic experience. I have a friend that their whole house had black mold and they had to move, and they're still dealing with doctor bills, respiratory issues. Like there's a long journey ahead for some of these things that you guys repair. Yeah. So I've got to imagine just taking that burden. I mean, they've got a ton of burdens ahead. Taking that burden off of them is probably part of that reason why you're earning trust.
Yep. I think the other thing with HQR is like our transparency and just open lines of communication. This is, I mean, any business, any industry, it's like just be transparent. Communicate everything, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
As long as you have open lines of communication. And I mean, we're all human. We all make mistakes. So, our company makes mistakes on stuff sometimes, and I have to put out a fire. I got to deal with a customer that's irate about something. And it's like, just sit, have the conversation, be open. I think I'm a lot more level-headed than a lot of people.
Sure.
So it's like, even with someone screaming in my face, by the end of the conversation, I think anybody will be like, okay, we figured this out. We hashed it out. It went well. Ryan's a good guy. He's going to help take care of this. The company will fix it. And, it's just that kind of stuff. It's just, we're providing that good communication and good customer service at the end of the day. Because, again, our work is, it's not rocket science. You have a flood, you have a fire, you rip out the bad stuff, you put in new good stuff. And it's like, so what separates you from everybody else that does what you do?
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, man, people are human. And I think they want to feel taken care of, especially in an issued, traumatic time like the ones that you guys typically walk into. How can people kind of reach out to you guys? Again, I don't even know where to start if like my home were to catch fire. Is that something where they're reaching out to HQR, the insurance companies reach out to you? Like how does the actual like sales process look at like a restoration company?
With water damage, it's very immediate now. So it's like, their house just flooded. They're calling a plumber to fix the issue. Then their next step is they're either calling the insurance company to say I had a flood, or, the plumber is saying, hey, you need to call a restoration guy, or, they're just finding us. But the water, it's like you call us, we go and we do it, we handle it. The fire stuff is a lot different because the house is going to sit for a minute. There's an investigation. You got the firemen there. Your life is completely turned upside down in a fire where a lot of times they're probably not even thinking about the insurance claim process in the beginning. It's just like, I just lost my whole house. Where are me and my family going to sleep tonight? What are we going to do? So the fire stuff is a little bit different. I have a great business development team behind me. Typically we're eventually trying to make contact with those customers if possible. The insurance, there are some insurance companies that are just saying, hey, call HQR. They'll help you get through this. And then, when stuff like fires happen, we're at a time now with social media, at some point, most people are going right to social media to say, hey, we suffered a fire, prayers for us type of thing.
Sure.
And everybody's starting to reach out to them like, oh, you had a fire. My friend had a fire. They used HQR. Or,
right.
There's a lot of word of mouth, and my business is built mainly on the network. I'm not throwing a ton of money at Google and like advertising in that regard. We're just building a name for ourselves through the network and a lot of word of mouth referrals.
Yeah, our agency prides ourselves on your best salesman is a happy customer. That is an obvious statement.
Right.
But I think make sure that they are a happy customer because your worst salesman is a dissatisfied customer that's now telling everybody, leaving the 1-star Google review, really bashing. And I think that that's what my dad's walking through. He just left his 1-star review. He's on the phone with these guys, and it's like, that does impact the social proof when it comes to getting new leads,
Yep. And we don't have perfect 5 stars.
Of course,
we're close. I think I have a few bad reviews, and I'm not one to go to Google and be like, hey, let's try to get rid of this. It's like most people are intelligent enough to read through everything, and they can read between the lines on something. And again, everyone's human. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
No job can go off, the hitch with 5 stars.
Of course.
There's always going to be something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it goes back to your integrity and you guys owning it. It's like, hey, we're not perfect, but we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that you guys are taken care of. And I think people appreciate that because it's human.
Right. I mean, we're in people's homes. We're touching their things. We're packing stuff up. Fires, we're moving their stuff out of their house where, a hutch or a chair leg breaks. And, I have a wood guy on speed dial that like, hey, this dining room table chair broke. Can you fix it? And, we're always going to try to make it right. And, again, it's just we're in a business of, I always refer to it as organized chaos. Like our business is chaos at all times, but we try to be organized.
Yeah. Speaking of chaos, we took a trip together, Sanibel Island, Florida.
We did.
It really was like, I've been on missions trips and service trips in the past in like third world countries. When we went over the bridge, if anyone that's been to Sanibel, there's just one way in and one way out over the bridge. When we went over there, there were hotels that had, not even an exaggeration, probably stacked 8 high for half a mile of just mattresses.
Yep.
And just stuff. Just garbage, just completely down these areas. I got to imagine even in 2025, they're still rebuilding parts of that area. When you guys go into that like storm chasing kind of realm, where do you even begin? And how do you guys maintain this level of still taking care of you and your guys and your families back at home and all of these things? Like, how do you guys balance all of the chaos of kind of a storm, the urgency that we got to repair this now, with everything else that's going on?
It's tough, man. It's not for the weak and weary. The biggest thing I would say is like, a lot of us, we all have wives and families and kids. So it's like when we do travel, it's like, the wives and girlfriends and kids at this point know what we do. She refers to the single mom life. It's like kind of from, July, August is sort of June is when hurricane season opens and it runs, kind of through November. So she always like recognizes, the fall, late summer, early fall is single mom season where, if I tell her, hey, we got to go, she knows the drill. We're at a point in our lives now where if I am traveling somewhere for an extended period of time or hurricane, once stuff is a little bit cleaned up and back to normal, I'll usually try to get her and the kids down there and try to have somewhat of a little mini vacation while I'm working. And then, the guys, you're traveling to a hurricane site. There's no power. There's no fuel. We have a camper that we bring with us. We're sleeping in a camper, or maybe you're getting lucky and finding an Airbnb that has power or something like that. But, it's tough.
But no grocery stores are open, right? Nope, everything is, there's no restaurants. It's not.
We're driving on the way down and we're trying to get maybe as close as I feel like I'm going to get, where I'm like, all right, now we have to stop and pull off and find a Publix or a Walmart. And, we're stocking up on some food, and Just trying to load up every supply you possibly can. And then, we shared some time together in Sanibel. It was crazy. The iguanas and running across the road and just demo and sand everywhere. And
it was a really impactful trip for me, not just on seeing the work that you guys do, but we got to shoot some testimonial videos of some of the meaningful conversations. I mean, like little old ladies that have lived in these homes their whole lives, that are widowed and, they're not sure where to turn. And then you have a guy like you that shows up that isn't taking advantage of them, but actually serving them properly. How meaningful is that to you personally when you get to attach yourself to some of those real feel-good stories?
It is. I mean, it's extremely rewarding. And then, like, I'll say Sanibel in particular, we have a woman there that we did a job for that, like, she still stays in touch with me and, like, my ops manager, Chris, like, on Facebook, and like she'll occasionally message us and be like, hey, if you guys ever want to come back to Sanibel Island, you can stay at my house. Like, she bounds, it's her vacation home. She lives somewhere else in, the continental US. But like, we made such an impact for her where I think we might have been the third guy that she hired. She went through 2 other contractors before finding us. And, in the hurricanes, that's a big thing for us where, we end up in a neighborhood, we do a house, they immediately call the next door neighbor or the person down the street. Hey, did you find anyone yet? Like, use these guys. They just took care of me. They're great. And this woman has offered her house up to us on Sanibel Island. Anytime we want to go there, we could stay there if she's not there.
Linked below is her address for you guys to stay for free as well. I'm just kidding. That would be amazing. We'll talk about, again, for those listening that are maybe in the early stages of building business, or maybe they're at just kind of a standstill point, right? There's so many different iterations to business, certainly where you were when you started versus where you are when you're scaling. There's very different things required for those things. So for someone that is in kind of that stuck, getting ready to scale type of phase, what are some of the learnings that you and your team have found, both with team building, leadership, hiring stuff? Like where are you guys finding maybe some tips and tricks that could be useful for people listening that are in that business space?
It all comes down to communication. You got to constantly know where your guys are at. Have those conversations with them, see what they feel about it. 'Cause you may have an employee that's a fantastic employee. They're great. They're not going anywhere. You want to keep them, but as you scale, you envision something different for them and they may or may not want it. You could sit a guy down and just say, you know what? I really don't want to be this manager of all these people. I kind of want to stay where I'm at. You just have to know that. You got to know, because you can only scale as much as your guys will allow you to, or your staff. And you got to know where, who wants to be a co-pilot, who wants to be a driver, and then who wants to be the guy to oversee all of it. Yeah. And so it all just comes down to having those open talks, having those meetings. It all just boils down to communication, number one.
I think in the home service space, there is, and really in any business vertical, there is always this tension between what I would call the technician, and then the technician becomes really good at the task, and then he gets elevated to manager of technicians. And this could be in any industry.
Right.
The dilemma comes when that person actually doesn't know how to manage people.
Right.
But they're so good at the task that we don't just want to keep them as a tech forever per se. Those tensions are tough. Like when you're building business, right? How have you been able to learn that information from your staff to make sure you're putting them in the right spots? Do you guys have kind of this consistent meeting rhythm, or is there like, where does your team maybe feel like their voice can be heard and they can help kind of shape and shift where HQR is going?
We definitely aren't having meetings as much as we should because we're living in organized chaos at all times. Yeah. But when I do get them all together, we kind of just talk about what's going on at that very moment, what we see for the next few months. And then, I try to get some one-on-one time with them here and there. A lot of times the guys, like when they get back to our office at the end of the day, I'm up in my office. They'll usually come up to my office and just, stop in, say what's up, talk about the day, that day. And then, but yeah, I try to get this one-on-one time. I'll call them on the phone at night, if I can get them. And, we'll just try to keep chit chat, How are you feeling right now? What's going on? This is what I see for you. Are you okay with this? That kind of thing. It's just, just having those conversations as much as you can.
And I feel like your culture is great. Again, you guys take some time and you golf together, you spend time together. Talk a little bit about kind of that team building side of what you guys have been able to establish. Because again, anyone that steps foot inside of your office, you can see and feel the team. You can feel the culture, the energy. Why is that a value for you to take some time off, to do some golfing with the guys, to enter some tournaments, some different things? Like why is that a value to you?
Well, the first one is because I'm a bad golfer, and I have some guys that work for me that are good golfers. So,
so it's really selfish. Yeah. I love
trying to hone in my skills. But I've just always, every company I've been at though, I try to be friendly with everybody. I think most people would say I'm a fairly friendly guy. And, just to spend that time, the camaraderie, I'm also extremely competitive. So, the fact that I'm not good at golf and, I'm good at other things, but not golf. So it's just super frustrating for me being ultra competitive. But, I just like having the family vibes always.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very, very small family. I don't have a huge extended family whatsoever. So like, I guess I didn't have that sort of close upbringing where we're like getting together for all these holidays and things with like all of these people. Like, I grew up with like maybe 5 to 10 people around me at all times from a family perspective. And then, so I just like family. Everyone's my family. You're my family, Mike.
Yeah, dude. Hey, welcome to the big old table where we can sit. I wish we had food. I'm starving. Yeah, we should never book podcasts around lunchtime. It feels just like a terrible decision. But anyway, you also are a big sneakerhead. Talk about,
you could say that.
Talk about the shoes. Talk about your wife's opinion on the storage of said shoes at the house. Give us a rundown. Like, where did that come from?
I feel like I've just always enjoyed sneakers for sure. I'm definitely like, I walk into the room, I'm talking to somebody, I'm checking what's on their feet probably before anything else. I just think you could have a pretty rundown outfit on or like, not a great look clothes wise, but like if you got some fresh sneakers on, it's just elevating you right off the rip.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you get older, you get a little bit more financially stable in your life where like you can get more shoes. And, my vice is shoes for sure.
I love it. So this is a real intense question here. Have you ever had a nice pair of kicks on and some emergency call came through that you had to show up to the call, but the only pair of shoes you had on were like some real fresh Nikes?
It has happened, and what I do to alleviate that is, if anyone goes in my truck at any time, there's probably at least like 3 or 4 pairs of different shoes and work boots. So I usually have something I could slip on if the job's really rough. Or quick story, over the weekend, one of my close friends just moved with his family, so I had I had my one son Lucas with me, and we went to go visit them at their new crib, and they have dogs. And I had some really nice shoes on, and the dogs were outside playing in the backyard, and they came back in, and I'm a dog guy, so like they're jumping on me, I'm petting them, and my buddy Brett is like, "Oh my God, he's ruining your sneakers," and I'm like, "Don't worry, I got the best shoe cleaner in the game." Like, and it's funny, I wore those sneakers yesterday, and I sent him a picture, and like they're spotless now.
Wow.
The mud didn't bother me, and it's okay.
But like inside, you must have been dying a little bit.
At first I'm just like, man, this dog's crushing these shoes.
Yeah.
But I just know, I got to spend a little bit of time in cleaning them when I get home.
Yeah.
And the sneaker thing has really infiltrated my household too. Like I try to keep both my sons, with a decent collection. My older son, Roman, he loves, when he gets dressed, he's constantly like, Dad, these sneakers, like with this shirt and this hoodie, these pants, and
he's locked in.
And Kelly's super into it now as well. Like we've been growing her collection a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Her closet's starting to get filled with sneakers too. She's nowhere near me, but I have a small sliver in my house. A utility room that really wasn't getting used that much, and I've kind of converted that into. It's a work in progress. It's not done, but it's the the sneaker lab, and that's where I have them all in there.
Dude, that's great. I love it. How important is it though? Do you feel like, whether it's golf or sneakers or whatever, for a business owner, for someone that's really grinding it out on their kind of day to day, how important is it to have an external hobby that isn't just you on your laptop when you're home, still doing business? Why is that a valuable thing?
It's just somewhat stay sane and, to de-stress. One thing about me is I would say I'm very good at compartmentalizing things. You'll never know if I'm stressed or not. I walking around with stress daily. Obviously, I'm a business owner, so there's always a heightened level of stress, but you would never know talking to me. I'm pretty calm, cool, collected always. And I think, if you had Kelly in here right now, she would say I have too many hobbies and stuff that I do. And, for someone, I would absolutely say I'm a homebody and I love being at home, which is weird to say, though, because I am always out doing something.
Sure.
And I think Kelly would absolutely agree with that. But, outside of golfing, now that golf season's about to be here, and sneakers, I'm an avid card player, gambler.
Yeah.
I enjoy the casino. But I would tell you I love being at home. I love being at home, but I'm never there.
I got it. Yeah, you're also a people person. I think when you get around people, you help bring life to them, and there's an excitement that generates. When it comes to HQR, this will be my last question before we dive into the rapid fire hot seat questions. But 10 years from today, where do you see HQR? Do you see you guys in multiple states? Do you see you guys having different divisions, departments kind of within your business? Where do you see yourselves?
Absolutely. I would say 10 years from now, I think there's no question that I'll have another location further south somewhere, just because we travel south for the hurricanes. So, when we leave for a hurricane now, we're packing up a bunch of our stuff here and trucking it across the country. It would only make sense to have something a little bit further south, maybe the Carolinas, or maybe even all the way down in Florida, but somewhere else where I could have a space, have some equipment staged, kind of ready to go. And, I don't think I would ever see myself franchising HQR in a way, but definitely maybe just, having an additional location and a bigger footprint in the United States.
Got to imagine the taxes would be much better.
Absolutely.
Down there as well. So that would be wonderful.
Right.
All right, here we go. Rapid fire hot seat questions. These are like 1 to 2 word, just quick responses. You should be feeling pressured, okay?
All right.
Here we go. What's your favorite golf course you've ever played?
That would be the Old Corkscrew. It's in Estero, Florida, right outside of like Fort Myers, Naples area. It's the most beautiful course I've ever played. Coincidentally, I shot one of my worst rounds ever there. So, a little disheartening because it was such a nice, beautiful, top-notch course. Oof. But I did not play well.
Sorry. Dream vacation destination?
Probably Italy.
Love it. Most prized sneaker in your collection?
This is a two-parter. The most prized sneaker is I have a pair of Diodoras. They're called the Purple Tapes. They were like a Wu-Tang Diodora collaboration with Raekwon the Chef. Shout out to Wu-Tang.
Wow.
So those are like probably my rarest sneaker that I have. And then my other most prized sneaker that I do wear frequently that's a very coveted shoe is the Sean Witherspoon Air Max.
Wow.
And I wear those a lot.
What is your favorite sneaker brand of all time?
I don't want to say, like, obviously most of my sneakers are Nike, so I'll dial it in a little bit more, but I'm a huge Nike Air Max 1.
Got it. I love it. What is one word that your friends or employees would use to describe you?
I think my employees would probably describe me as a good leader, and then I think my friends would say competitive, probably.
Nice.
I'm just constantly trying to compete.
I love it. What's one skill that every entrepreneur should master?
I would say probably just the compartmentalizing factor, being able to separate work stuff from home stuff, your personal life. Everyone has stuff going on all the times, but at the end of the day, you got to do your job. You got to get your job done, and you can't let whatever's going on affect your work.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed, you got to be able to compartmentalize, everything.
It's great advice, man. I think there's, you have one shot at this thing called life. And I think there's a lot of times when work stress can leak into family life, and then vice versa, where family stress can leak into work life,
Right.
And I think to compartmentalize, I think is absolutely brilliant. Anything else you want to share? Anything new upcoming for HQR, ways that people can get in touch with you, work with you?
We have a Facebook page, HQR Dry, same thing for Instagram. We're just out there. We're trying to get some more content out there. We're constantly busy, so we probably neglect the content.
Yeah.
Not as much as we should be getting it out there.
Well, we got the pod now, baby, so you're...
Right. I would love to be a guest again. And obviously, Mike, we're always going to spend time together.
Always, man. Yeah, maybe next episode will be on the golf course. You guys can see how ugly my swing is, and we'll...
I know. We haven't golfed in a while together.
I know. We'll get it dialed.
For sure.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. to another episode of In Good Company, where we believe that the best parts of business happen in good company. Thanks so much.